For years, I have been saying we live in a South Park episode. All the stupid things from sun up to sundown, it would just have you think this is just one long South Park episode that will never end. But you can imagine my annoyance going to sleep and waking up to find out I've been wrong the whole time. We don't live in a South Park episode. We live in a Call of Duty lobby. Because what you mean the U.S. just bombed Venezuela, took the president, and brought him back to the States? That's the most Call of Duty-esque thing I've ever heard in my years on this earth. But that aside, what's interesting about these past few hours since are the reactions, because I live in a world where the stupidest of society have said amongst many things that if you're not this, you're not qualified to speak on that. If you aren't a part of this group, you can't speak on that group. If you're not from here, you can't speak about over there. And it's interesting seeing people who are not from Venezuela say one thing.
Who gives a fuck about Venezuela? Why are paper towels $12? And Trump's like, oh, we're just gonna run the country for the time being. He can't even run period, let alone this country, let alone an entire other one. Like, one stick of deodorant in this country costs more than the federal minimum wage. How about we focus on that shit instead of invading some country that has nothing to fucking do with us?
So let me get this straight. We just illegally bombed Venezuela without congressional approval as a distraction so that we could kidnap the president of Venezuela and his wife and install a new leader that is loyal to us. So the United States just did a coup. And what's crazy is, like, this isn't the first time that the United States has done a coup. However, in the past, whenever we've successfully done coups, we secretly funnel money to, revolutionary powers that are trying to fight against that government in the first place, or outside forces that are trying to take over a certain portion of that country. And we secretly funnel them money, train them, and potentially send operatives to join them just without the United States logo attached to it in undercover black ops type operations. And that way we have some type of plausible deniability when it comes to the backlash of doing this. However, this is the first time ever that we've just openly done a coup, and it's either through sheer incompetence or a lack of give a fucks because dictator. And we are most likely going to war because of this.
And seeing Venezuelans say another.
Yeah, come celebrate with us. We love everybody because you, America, has loved us so much. So much. Thank you, America.
Edgar, thank you so much for sharing those sentiments. Guys, this is something that I find really interesting here. Everyone here, American, Venezuelan, have said they're so happy for the freedom that they experience here, and they just hope that freedom translates into their home country, Venezuela. All we've heard was freedom, freedom, freedom. Yes, we did it. Now we can continue to move forward. By no means are any of them saying, now comes the easy part. Certainly the hard parts are on the way, but they're saying now is finally a step in the right direction that they've all been waiting for so long. I want to give you a little bit more of a scene setter here, guys. Look, people with flags, holding them up, holding them high. Hundreds of people here. Cars, playing music, everyone here dancing.
Now a message to my English-speaking friends, because I'm already seeing people are organizing protests, hands off Venezuela, let's defend Maduro, we love dictators. Do not, for a moment, let your hatred and disdain for Donald Trump, an unsavory character, have you defending the dictator of my country that was destroyed by him and Chavez and their system 20 years ago. We Venezuelans are very, very happy that our dictator has been arrested, removed, and will be put through a trial. It's the first time we're seeing justice in 26 years. Now let's hope that they get the rest of the criminals out of Venezuela and then we can return home.
Now, the geopolitical strategies of how individuals choose to operate aside, because of course they're going to bring up oil, they're going to bring up all these resources that they're just going in and trying to take and using this as a distraction. They're going to probably bring up how they distracted everybody using Somalian daycares. All these things aside, it's important that if you want to have this conversation, you have to have it in full. And while someone who will try very hard to make it seem like this is so bad for the Venezuelan people is going to try to sound like the loudest in the room, I think it'd be more important to pay attention to the Venezuelans and how they choose to respond to this, because it seems like to me, the uneducated in the room, they don't necessarily like this guy. And while we, the American populace, have people that are going to bitch and pretend like, oh my God, you poor non-housed villagers, you don't have a leader anymore, it seems like they're having a fucking parade. So in the grand scheme of wanting to understand things, I think it'd be a little important that while you might get on a soapbox and try to sound like you care about every single person in an area, it would be important to also listen to hear how good or bad someone is in terms of how they've been running a country, a continent, what have you. And it seems like this guy has not been doing a good job and is not supported by his people.
For all my Americans shitting on Trump for bombing Venezuela, let me tell you, I am Trump's #1 hater. I am also Venezuelan. And let me tell you, for all of you that are commenting on social media, oh my God, no war, we didn't sign for this. Oh my God, poor people, they must be so terrified. Let me tell you, every single Venezuelan that is not working for the government, the dictatorship that has been in place for more than 25 years, we are stoked. We are happy. Even the people that are currently still in Venezuela, everyone's happy about this. So can you please just educate yourself and stop spreading this bullshit narrative that, oh my God, poor people, like, they must be so scared. No, we're not scared. We've been waiting for this shit for 25 years. We've lost family members. We've escaped the country. We've had to leave everything behind to start over. Yes, some of us know Trump is a piece of shit, but sometimes you battle the devil with a bigger devil. So let him do what he needs to do, and then we can go back to shitting on him, okay?
I want to talk about what's happening in Venezuela and give some context from an actual Venezuelan. Maduro, bad. Trump, bad. Getting rid of Maduro, good. An American intervention into Venezuela, bad. Now you're going to see a lot of Venezuelans who seem to be in support of this American intervention, not because we're naive or because we don't understand what it could mean. Nobody wants to be bombed by the Yanks, okay? But that should give you an idea as just how desperate Venezuelans are. Maduro is not the legal president of Venezuela. He lost the 2024 election to Edmundo Gonzalez. That is an indisputable fact. But this isn't so much about the nitty-gritty of the politics as much as it is about the effects of those politics on the people. Imagine this. You wake up, there's no water, as usual. The lights have been out for about 10 hours. Your fridge starts to smell because the power keeps going out. So you're like, okay, I'm going to go out and buy some new food. You get there and the food is even more expensive than it was before. Food has gone up 21.9% in price since just last October. Actually, food prices have gone up 12,000% since 2009. So that's like a tomato being worth $1. Now that same tomato is worth $12,000. That's how crazy the food situation is in Venezuela. These rolling blackouts too that I mentioned have a huge effect on the hospital systems. Often you will be in the middle of surgery and the electricity goes off. So you have a country where you have very little access to food, and we know little access to food usually means a huge increase in crime. That has happened in Venezuela. You have a dangerous country, you don't have access to food, water, electricity, and your hospital systems have been terrible. On top of these brutal living conditions, you have this political violence hovering on top of you. If you speak out about what's happening, you are very likely to be disappeared into El Helicoide, which is the largest torture center in the Americas. In July of 2024 came Operation Tuntun. So basically the government would come knocking on your door if you made any posts that were against the government. And if your neighbors outed you for being out protesting, you would be likely to be kidnapped and sent to this torture center. In just the month of July 2024, 1,900 political prisoners were taken. Those numbers have gone up to over 3,000, most of those being youth and most of those being underage girls. Since 2014, there has been 17,888 politically motivated arrests in Venezuela. More than 8 million Venezuelans have fled the country. Our families are scattered across the world because we can't safely live home. And back in Venezuela, the regime allows mining that is tearing apart the Orinoco Delta, poisoning rivers with mercury and displacing indigenous people, allowing miners to go into indigenous territories, spreading diseases and kidnapping and human trafficking indigenous women. So when you see Venezuelans expressing support for an invasion, please understand, no one wants to be invaded, especially not by a country with such a brutal, violent global history. But Venezuelans are running out of options. Our hope is real. But underneath that hope is fear, exhaustion, and deep sadness for having to survive this horrific, violent, corrupt dictatorship. So please give us some space to feel all these emotions. Venezuelans aren't dumb. We are hardworking people who just want the best, like everyone else, to live a normal life. Thanks for listening.
In the grand scheme, it's going to take a little bit of time for us to find out how good or bad this is going to be in the long term. And I know instant reactions are the thing that are the most popular in terms of a bunch of people trying to sound like they're the smartest. But with things like this, you got to give it a little bit of time. And in that time, I suggest people pay very close attention to what Venezuelan officials and the people have to say about this regime and how it was handled, because people celebrating it and thanking Trump really paints a picture of how bad of a job this dude has done in order to be kidnapped and taken to another country to face prosecution in front of everybody while his own people are sitting there having parades. That doesn't create the strongest confidence that this is just some tyrannical individual just making sure that he's the overarching leader of the world. Makes it seem like this person's a dick and these people wanted him gone and somebody else came in and got him gone and they're celebrating about it. Legal parameters are a different subject matter that are too finicky to get in, because who knows the hierarching power of just starting sending bombs everywhere and capturing motherfuckers presidents. I'll leave that to the political officials to help everybody map out. But in the meantime, I suggest everyone open ears and listen to individuals about what they have to say and how they choose to create that conversation instead of just barking, "Oh, you precious poor little baby. Oh, you precious little victim. Oh, this, oh, that, oh, this, oh, that." Because listening is a wonderful part of conversation. And if you're not willing to do it, oh God, you might miss the fucking point. Subscribe to the channel. I shall see you all in the next one. Mwah! What a fucking way to start the year.